The MV München was not supposed to disappear. She wasn't old, she wasn't weak, and she wasn't unprepared. In 1978, she was considered one of the most advanced cargo ships ever built, a floating symbol of German engineering designed to survive seas that had swallowed lesser vessels whole. Her captain, Heinz Schumann, was experienced, disciplined, trusted. Yet somewhere in the cold Atlantic, this modern ship entered a silence so absolute that it still echoes today. Her last transmission wasn't a scream. It wasn't chaos. It was calm, professional, almost routine. And then, nothing. No wreckage, no bodies, no clear answers, just fragments. A destroyed lifeboat, bent steel that suggested forces beyond comprehension, and a mystery of the disappearance that refuses to stay buried, because ships don't simply vanish. Not like this, not without leaving behind something that wasn't meant to be found. When search teams finally located what remained of one of the Munchen's lifeboats, they realized something was terribly wrong. It wasn't torn apart by waves alone. It was crushed, twisted in a way that suggested immense pressure applied from above, not below. The lifeboat had been deployed correctly, meaning someone made a conscious decision to abandon ship. But why would a vessel built to survive extreme conditions suddenly become unlivable? Even more disturbing were the timestamps. The lifeboat should not have been where it was found, unless the ocean itself moved differently that night. And then there's the final signal fragment that was never officially acknowledged. A partial transmission, cut mid-sentence. If it exists, and some insist it does, then the mystery of the disappearance may be far darker than anyone was prepared to admit. Before we go any further, understand this. What you're about to hear isn't a closed case. It's a reconstruction built from silence, fragments, and questions that were never answered. If you're here for stories that don't end neatly, for disappearances the ocean refuses to explain, for investigations that go where official reports stop, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on the notification bell, because the next mystery of the disappearance may surface when you least expect it. And stay with me until the end. Because once the full picture comes into focus, you'll have to decide for yourself what really happened to the MV München. The North Atlantic has always been unforgiving, but by the late 1970s, humanity believed it had finally learned how to tame it. Steel had become stronger, navigation systems more precise, engineering more confident. And standing at the center of that belief was the MV München, a ship that represented progress, precision, and control. Built in West Germany and launched with international attention, the Munchen was not just another cargo vessel. She was a statement. Reinforced hull, advanced stabilization, cutting-edge safety systems. A ship designed not merely to survive the ocean, but to dominate it. That is what makes the mystery of the disappearance so disturbing. On paper, the Munchen should have endured what countless other ships could not. Her captain, Heinz Schumann, was no reckless adventurer. He was methodical, experienced, respected by his peers. The crew was trained, the route was familiar. Nothing about the voyage suggested danger beyond the ordinary risks of the sea. And yet, somewhere between Europe and America, the ship entered a narrative that defies logic. One built not on chaos, but on silence. There was no mayday filled with panic, no desperate screams over the radio. The last records indicate control, professionalism, restraint. A final distress call acknowledged. A routine response expected, and then nothing. The kind of silence that doesn't just end a story, it fractures it. In the days that followed, the ocean refused to give answers. No debris field, no oil slick, no clear indication of where the ship had gone down. Only later would a single lifeboat be discovered, destroyed, mangled, telling a story that contradicted everything engineers believed possible. It was evidence that didn't clarify the truth, but complicated it. Evidence that turned a maritime accident into an unsolved enigma. Authorities spoke carefully, reports were measured, conclusions were vague. But among maritime experts, families and investigators, doubt grew louder. Because ships like the Munchen are not supposed to vanish, not entirely, not without leaving a trail. And when they do, it suggests forces, natural or otherwise, that remain beyond full human understanding. This is not just the story of a ship lost at sea. It is the reconstruction of a moment when confidence collided with reality. A case where technology failed to protect, experience failed to predict, and the ocean reminded the world that some disappearances are never meant to be explained. This is the mystery of the disappearance of the MV München. The last time Captain Heinz Schumann was seen, there was nothing remarkable about the moment. No tension in his voice, no sense of urgency in the reports. Just another experienced mariner guiding a modern ship across one of the most traveled and most deceptive stretches of ocean on Earth. The MV München had departed Bremerhaven carrying steel products bound for Savannah, Georgia. A routine voyage, a familiar route, a ship designed to withstand far worse than anything forecasted ahead. Crew accounts from earlier ports describe a vessel operating normally. Systems checked, cargo secured, weather monitored. Captain Schumann was known for discipline and caution, the kind of man who trusted data over instinct, procedure over improvisation. If there had been something truly wrong, something that justified panic, the records suggest he would have said so. He never did. The final verified communication came in the early hours of December 12, 1978. The Munchen transmitted a distress message reporting damage caused by what was described as an unusual wave. Not a hurricane, not structural failure. One wave, singular. The transmission was brief, controlled, and incomplete. There was no follow-up call, no escalation, no abandonment signal sent to nearby vessels, just a report, and then radio silence. What followed raised more questions than answers. Ships in the area acknowledged the distress call and attempted to respond, but no further contact could be established. The Munchen did not answer. Her automated systems did not transmit a final position update. It was as if the ship had been removed from the ocean in a single, irreversible moment. This absence is one of the most unsettling aspects of the mystery of the disappearance. There was no gradual decline, no trail of escalating failures. The last appearance of the Munchen in official records shows a ship still afloat, still under command, still fighting to maintain control. Whatever happened next occurred faster than the protocols designed to save lives could respond. Captain Schumann's final actions are now reconstructed only through inference. Did he attempt to turn the vessel into the waves? Did he order preparations to abandon ship? Did he believe the damage was survivable until it suddenly wasn't? The answers were never recorded. The ocean kept them. When the Munchen vanished from radar and radio, she took with her not only 28 lives, but the final moments of human decision that might have explained everything. And in their absence, the story begins to fracture, opening the door to theories, contradictions, and a silence that feels intentional. The last time he was seen, Captain Heinz Schumann was doing his job, and then the Atlantic erased him. To understand the mystery of the disappearance of the MV München, investigators were forced to rebuild time itself, not as it happened, but as it could be inferred from fragments. Every log entry, every weather report, every unanswered radio call became a substitute for the hours that were never recorded. What emerged was not a clean timeline, but a sequence of gaps where certainty collapses into speculation. The Munchen departed Bremerhaven on December 7, 1978. For several days, the voyage unfolded exactly as expected. Position reports were transmitted at regular intervals. Weather conditions, while deteriorating, remained within parameters the ship was designed to endure. North Atlantic storms were common in winter, and the Munchen had been engineered with those realities in mind. There was no deviation from course, no indication of distress, nothing that would later explain what was coming. By December 11th, meteorological data began to show intensifying conditions. Swells increased, wind speeds climbed. Other vessels in the region reported heavy seas, but continued operating. According to reconstructed data, the Munchen was navigating directly into the system, a decision consistent with standard maritime practice, not recklessness. Captain Schumann trusted the ship, so did her designers. Then came December 12th. At approximately U030 UTC, the Munchen transmitted her final distress message. The wording was precise: damage sustained due to an unusual wave. Not plural, not ongoing. A single event. That detail would later haunt investigators. The message was received, logged, and acknowledged. Requests for further information were sent. They were never answered. From that moment forward, the timeline fractures. Between 0030 and 03 so, nearby vessels attempted repeated contact. There was no response, no automated alarm, no emergency beacon activated. Weather models suggest the ship remained in a zone of extreme wave activity during that window, but nothing in the data explains why all communication ceased so abruptly. If power had failed, backup systems should have engaged. If the ship had sunk immediately, the distress call itself should not have been possible. By dawn, the Munchen was officially overdue for communication. Search protocols began to form, but without a confirmed last position, the ocean became an enormous question mark. The ship's final known coordinates expanded into a search area hundreds of miles wide, a space large enough to swallow evidence indefinitely. What troubles experts most is not what is known, but what is missing. There is no record of escalation, no partial follow-up, no trace of the moments when the crew may have realized survival was slipping away. The chronology ends not with a conclusion, but with a void. In that void, the mystery of the disappearance deepens, because whatever happened to the Munchen happened fast enough to silence a modern ship in the age of constant communication, and that should not have been possible. The first alerts did not arrive with urgency. They arrived with hesitation, the kind that often precedes a disaster no one wants to acknowledge. In the early hours after the MV München transmitted her final distress call, there was no immediate declaration of an emergency. The message had been received, logged, and acknowledged. In maritime operations, that acknowledgement often creates a dangerous illusion of control, a belief that time still exists. Nearby vessels attempted to raise the Munchen repeatedly. Standard radio frequencies, emergency channels. Silence answered every call. Still, silence alone was not enough to trigger a full-scale response. Ships lose contact temporarily. Storms interfere. Systems fail and recover. That assumption bought the ocean precious hours. As dawn approached on December 12th, concern began to replace routine. The Munchen had missed expected follow-up transmissions. Her position remained frozen in time, anchored to coordinates that now felt increasingly unreliable. Weather conditions in the area continued to worsen, complicating every decision. Search authorities were faced with a dilemma: act too soon and risk diverting resources unnecessarily, or wait and hope the ship reappears. The official alert was finally escalated when it became clear the Munchen was no longer simply delayed, she was absent. By then, the North Atlantic had already begun to erase whatever trace might have remained. High seas scatter debris quickly, currents distort logic, and with every passing hour, the probability of recovery drops sharply. What followed was a cascade of fragmented responses. Maritime rescue coordination centers issued notices. Aircraft were placed on standby. Vessels in the region were asked to keep watch, but without a confirmed last position, these efforts were spread thin across an ocean that offers no boundaries, no markers, no mercy. For the families of the crew, the first alerts came not as official statements, but as rumors, missed calls, unanswered questions, delayed confirmations. In cases like this, silence becomes its own form of communication. one that suggests something has already gone terribly wrong. The most unsettling detail is how ordinary the early alert seemed. No red flags raised immediately, no alarms blaring, just procedural steps unfolding at a pace that assumed the situation could still be reversed. It couldn't. By the time the disappearance of the Munchen was treated as a full-scale emergency, the ship had already passed beyond reach, and the mystery of the disappearance took on a shape it would never lose. A story defined not by what was done, but by what came too late. When the official search for the MV München finally began in earnest, it unfolded under the weight of uncertainty. Rescue operations depend on precision. Last known positions, drift models, timelines. In this case, all three were compromised. The ship's final coordinates were already hours old, and in the North Atlantic, hours are enough for the ocean to completely rewrite geography. Search aircraft were dispatched to scan the projected drift zones. Naval and civilian vessels altered course to assist. Radar sweeps and visual searches cut through towering waves and poor visibility. But from the very beginning, the operation felt like it was chasing a shadow. There was no debris field to anchor the effort. No oil slick, no floating cargo, just open water where a 261-meter ship should have left undeniable scars. Days passed with little to show. Then came the discovery that would redefine the entire case. A severely damaged lifeboat was spotted adrift far from where calculations said it should be. It was unmistakably from the Munchen, but instead of providing clarity, it introduced a new layer of confusion. The lifeboat had been deployed correctly, indicating deliberate human action, yet it was crushed, not capsized. Bent steel, torn fittings, structural deformation that experts struggled to attribute solely to wave impact. For many investigators, this find shifted the tone of the search from rescue to recovery. The condition of the lifeboat suggested that whatever forces had destroyed it would not have spared anyone inside. Still, the absence of bodies only deepened the unease. The ocean had returned evidence but not closure. As the search expanded, frustration grew. Weather windows closed, resources were stretched. Eventually, official efforts were scaled back, then terminated. The sea had offered up only one fragment, and it was deemed enough to draw conclusions. Public statements were careful, almost sterile. The ship was presumed lost due to extreme weather. The case, in practical terms, was closed. But within maritime circles, the official search was quietly criticized. Too late, too limited, too eager to accept an explanation that fit within existing frameworks. Because the lifeboat should not have been where it was. It should not have been damaged the way it was, and it should not have been the only thing the ocean returned. The official search ended, but the mystery of the disappearance did not. In many ways, it had only just begun. With the official search concluded and little physical evidence to analyze, explanations rushed in to fill the silence. The disappearance of the MV München demanded a cause, something that could be contained, named, and ultimately accepted. The first theories were not born from conspiracy, but from necessity, an attempt to make sense of a loss that defied expectation. The most immediate explanation was weather. The North Atlantic in winter is infamous, and reports confirmed the presence of severe storms in the area. Towering waves, hurricane-force winds, violent swells. It was easy to imagine the Munchen overwhelmed by conditions no ship could survive. But this theory collapsed under scrutiny. The vessel had been specifically designed to endure extreme seas. Other ships in nearby waters survived the same system, and crucially, the Munchen's final transmission did not describe a prolonged battle with the storm, only damage from a single, unusual wave. That detail gave rise to the second theory, a rogue wave. Rare, unpredictable, and once dismissed as maritime folklore, rogue waves had begun to gain scientific credibility in the late 1970s. A wall of water appearing without warning, capable of delivering catastrophic force. This explanation fit the wording of the distress call and the sudden loss of contact, yet it raised new questions. Could a single wave truly disable a ship of that size so completely? And if so, why was there time to deploy a lifeboat? Mechanical failure was also considered, a critical structural breach, a cascading systems collapse. But investigations into the ship's design revealed no known weaknesses that could account for such an immediate and total failure. Redundancies existed. Backup systems should have transmitted something, anything, after the initial call. They didn't. Some speculated about cargo shift, human error, or a collision with a submerged object. Each theory explained part of the puzzle, but none explained all of it. Not the crushed lifeboat. Not the absence of debris, not the silence. What troubled investigators most was how clean the disappearance appeared. No progressive deterioration, no chain of escalating emergencies, just one moment of contact, and then nothing. For a modern vessel, that was not just unlikely, it was anomalous. As these initial theories circulated, they provided comfort without resolution, labels without answers. And beneath them all, the mystery of the disappearance remained intact, resisting every attempt to simplify it. Because whatever happened to the Munchen did not behave like a normal maritime disaster. It behaved like something that erased evidence as efficiently as it erased lives. Before we go deeper into what may have truly happened to the MV München, pause for a moment. Stories like this, ships that vanish, final transmissions that raise more questions than answers, mysteries the authorities quietly move past, don't surface on their own. If you're drawn to unsolved disappearances, maritime enigmas, and cases where the truth hides beneath silence, subscribe to the channel now. Turn on the notification bell, because these stories don't follow schedules. They surface unexpectedly, just like the evidence in this case. And if you already have a theory forming in your mind, leave a comment below, because sometimes the most important clues don't come from official reports. They come from people who refuse to stop asking questions. If the MV München had vanished without leaving anything behind, the mystery of the disappearance might have been quietly buried under assumptions of extreme weather. But the ocean did return something, and what it returned shattered every comfortable explanation. The lifeboat. When experts examined it, the damage did not align with anything they expected to see. Lifeboats are designed to be beaten by waves, slammed by debris, tossed violently across the surface. This one showed something different. The steel frame was bent inward, mounting points were torn, as if wrenched by an overwhelming downward force. It looked less like it had been thrown against the sea, and more like the sea had been thrown against it. Even more disturbing was what the lifeboat implied. It had been launched properly. That means the crew had time. Time to assess the situation. Time to follow procedure. Time to believe that abandoning the ship was safer than staying aboard a vessel built to survive extreme conditions. Whatever they were facing was not theoretical. It was immediate, and it was terrifying enough to override every assumption of safety. Then there was the location. Drift calculations showed the lifeboat should not have traveled the distance it did in the time available. Currents didn't support it. Wind models contradicted it. To make the math work, investigators had to assume conditions far more violent or far more unusual than anything officially acknowledged. The ocean once again refused to follow the rules. No bodies were found, no personal effects, no secondary debris. The lifeboat stood alone, a single sentence torn from a story whose pages had been burned, and the sentence made no sense by itself. Some maritime engineers quietly suggested something unthinkable at the time, that the Munchen may have encountered forces beyond what ship design models accounted for. Not just high waves, but complex wave interactions, extreme pressure zones, phenomena still poorly understood. These suggestions never made it into official conclusions, because admitting that would mean acknowledging a gap in knowledge, a vulnerability The lifeboat remains the most concrete artifact of the case, and the most impossible. It proves that the crew acted. It proves that the ship did not simply vanish in an instant. And it proves that whatever destroyed the Munchen was powerful enough to crush hope after it had already been launched. In the mystery of the disappearance, this evidence doesn't answer questions, it accuses them. After the lifeboat was recovered and the official search quietly wound down, something else settled over the case of the MV München, a silence that felt deliberate. Statements from maritime authorities were brief, carefully worded, and final. The ship was presumed lost due to extreme weather. No further investigation was deemed necessary. No expanded inquiry announced. The mystery of the disappearance was, in bureaucratic terms, resolved. But resolution without explanation only sharpened suspicion. Requests for detailed reports were met with delays. Technical analyses were summarized instead of released. Certain data points, wave height estimates, structural assessments, radio logs, were referenced but never fully disclosed. For families and independent investigators, it felt less like closure and more like containment, as if the truth, whatever it was, created problems no one wanted to inherit. Part of that silence may have been economic. The Munchen represented a generation of ships built on the promise of safety through engineering. Acknowledging that such a vessel could be destroyed by forces not fully understood would ripple through insurance markets, ship design standards, and international confidence in maritime trade. Admitting uncertainty was not just uncomfortable, it was expensive. There was also the issue of precedent. If the disappearance was attributed to rare or poorly understood ocean phenomena, it would raise uncomfortable questions about other losses. Disappearances previously written off as human error or bad weather might need to be re-examined. Patterns might emerge, and patterns threaten narratives. Within maritime circles, whispers persisted. Engineers who reviewed the lifeboat damage privately admitted it didn't fit standard models. Meteorologists questioned the official storm assessments. Radio operators noted irregularities in how the final transmission was logged. None of this was formally addressed. The silence was not absolute. It was selective. What made it more unsettling was how quickly the case faded from public attention. No sustained media pressure, no televised inquiries, just a slow retreat into footnotes. For the families, the lack of answers became a second loss. For investigators, it became a warning. Because when authorities stop talking, it doesn't mean the questions have been answered. It means they've been set aside. And in the mystery of the disappearance of the Munchen, that silence may be the loudest clue of all. When official channels fell silent, the story of the MV München did not end. It simply went underground. Away from press releases and final reports, fragments of testimony began to surface. Not in courtrooms or hearings, but in private conversations, letters and recollections passed quietly between those who felt the truth had been truncated. Families of the crew were among the first to notice inconsistencies. Some recalled being told that the ship went down quickly, while others were informed there had been time to respond. These two statements could not coexist, yet both were delivered with equal confidence. Requests for clarification were met with sympathy, but little substance. Over time, families began comparing notes, and a pattern emerged. Information varied depending on who asked the questions. Maritime radio operators also shared unsettling accounts. A few claimed that the München's final transmission sounded incomplete, not cut by interference, but stopped abruptly, as if something interrupted the message mid-thought. One operator insisted there had been additional signal fragments after the acknowledged distress call, too weak to be confirmed, but strange enough to be remembered. These claims were never officially validated, nor were they formally denied. Then there were the sailors. Crew members from other vessels in the area later described seas that behaved unpredictably, waves arriving from conflicting directions, sudden walls of water that did not match the prevailing wind. These accounts were dismissed at the time as exaggeration, the kind of stories sailors tell after surviving a storm, but taken together, they suggest conditions more complex than the official weather models acknowledged. Some testimonies hint at something even more troubling, that the Munchen may not have sunk immediately, that she may have remained afloat long enough for decisions to be made, systems to fail in sequence, and fear to settle in. This aligns with the lifeboat evidence and contradicts the narrative of a sudden, unavoidable loss. None of these accounts stand alone as proof. Each is incomplete, subjective, vulnerable to doubt. But when layered together, they form a shadow narrative, one that runs parallel to the official version, diverging at critical points. In cases like this, truth rarely arrives fully formed. It leaks, slowly, inconsistently, through the memories of those who were never meant to be witnesses. And within these hidden testimonies, the mystery of the disappearance gains a human dimension, one that refuses to stay buried beneath technical explanations and institutional quiet. Pinpointing where the MV München was lost should have been a matter of coordinates, numbers, charts, calculations. Instead, it became one of the most unstable elements of the mystery of the disappearance. The ocean did not just erase the ship, it distorted the geography of the event itself. The last confirmed position placed the Munchen deep in the North Atlantic west of Ireland, in an area known for volatile weather systems and complex underwater topography. It was not a region infamous for shipwrecks, but it was not forgiving either. Powerful currents intersect there, swell patterns collide. Energy travels beneath the surface in ways that satellites and surface models struggle to predict. As search teams attempted to reconstruct drift patterns, the inconsistencies multiplied. The lifeboat's location suggested a path that defied conventional current models. To accept it, investigators had to assume either prolonged survival, which the condition of the lifeboat contradicts, or environmental forces strong enough to carry heavy steel far off course in a short time. Neither option fit comfortably. Some experts pointed to the possibility of interaction between wave systems, long swells crossing storm-generated seas, creating sudden, amplified wave events. These areas are not fixed points on a map. They form and dissolve. A ship can sail into one without warning. If the Munchen encountered such a zone, it would explain the unusual wave described in the final transmission, and the immediate escalation that followed. Others look deeper, literally. The seabed beneath the presumed area is uneven, carved by ancient geological activity. While far below the surface, some believe it influences surface behavior more than previously understood, creating localized anomalies in wave height and direction. This theory remains controversial, largely because it challenges long-held assumptions about ocean dynamics. What remains clear is this: the Munchen did not simply disappear at a single, identifiable point. The evidence suggests a moving event, something that unfolded across space, not just time, a sequence rather than a moment. By failing to locate a definitive site, the ocean denied investigators their most powerful tool, context. Without it, every theory floats untethered, and so the place where it happened remains uncertain, another unanswered question in a mystery of the disappearance defined by shifting ground and moving water. When conventional explanations fail, deeper theories begin to surface, not because they are comfortable, but because they are necessary. In the case of the MV München, these theories exist in the margins of official discourse, where uncertainty is allowed to breathe. They do not claim certainty, they explore possibility. One of the most discussed involves extreme wave interactions, not a single rogue wave, but a convergence. Under specific conditions, multiple wave systems can intersect and momentarily amplify each other, creating vertical walls of water far beyond predicted limits. These events are brief, localized, and devastating. If the Munchen encountered such a convergence, it could explain the sudden damage, the rushed decision to deploy a lifeboat, and the crushing forces that followed. Another theory focuses on structural resonance. Large vessels have natural frequencies, and under rare conditions, wave patterns can synchronize with those frequencies, amplifying stress instead of dissipating it. This doesn't require design flaws, only coincidence. A modern ship can become vulnerable not because it is weak, but because it is precise. There are also theories that bridge multiple disappearances. Maritime researchers have quietly noted similarities between the Munchen and other unexplained losses. Modern ships, sudden silence, minimal debris, lifeboats found damaged or adrift in improbable locations. These cases are rarely grouped together, but when they are, patterns begin to suggest environmental phenomena not yet fully classified. More speculative voices question whether certain oceanic forces are underreported by necessity. If rare but catastrophic events exist that no current ship can reliably survive, acknowledging them would fundamentally alter global shipping. In that context, silence becomes strategy. None of these theories can be proven conclusively, but neither can they be dismissed outright. They exist because the evidence demands them. In the mystery of the disappearance of the Munchen, deep theories are not distractions. They are reflections of how far the known world falls short of explaining what happened that night in the Atlantic. To reconstruct the final hours of the MV München is to step into a space where certainty no longer exists, only probability. Investigators, engineers, and maritime experts have attempted to assemble a version of events that does not rely on speculation alone, but respects the fragments the ocean allowed to surface. What emerges is not a definitive answer, but the most coherent narrative the evidence will support. Sometime during the night of December 11th into the early hours of December 12th, the Munchen encountered sea conditions that exceeded predictive models. Not just high waves, but an unstable convergence. Energy arriving from multiple directions, stacking rather than dispersing. One of these waves struck the ship with extraordinary force, damaging critical components above the waterline. This aligns with the captain's calm but urgent distress call, referencing an unusual wave rather than a generalized storm. The damage was serious, but not instantly fatal. Power systems may have faltered. Structural integrity may have been compromised in ways not immediately visible. The crew assessed the situation and made a decision that contradicts the idea of sudden destruction. They launched a lifeboat. That action suggests fear not of sinking, but of remaining aboard a vessel whose behavior had become unpredictable. As conditions continued to deteriorate, the Munchen likely became trapped in a hostile sea state. Waves striking from conflicting angles, exerting downward pressure that stressed both hull and superstructure. Communication systems failed, not all at once, but in rapid succession. Backup transmissions never reached shore. The window for rescue closed almost immediately. The lifeboat, once launched, did not escape the violence of the sea. It was overtaken by forces far exceeding its design limits. The crushing damage found later suggests immense pressure from above, possibly from a breaking wave or collapsing water mass. Survival became impossible. At some point after the final transmission, the Munchen succumbed. Whether through structural failure, flooding, or capsizing remains unknown. The ocean absorbed the ship without producing the debris field that logic demands, a phenomenon observed in other deep water losses under extreme conditions. This reconstruction does not claim certainty, it claims consistency. It respects the evidence, the silences, and the contradictions, and it acknowledges a truth maritime history repeatedly confronts, that progress does not eliminate vulnerability. In the end, the Munchen did not fail because she was weak. She failed because she encountered something the modern world was not ready to fully understand. The MV München did not simply vanish into the Atlantic. She slipped into a category of loss that resists closure, a place where evidence exists, but answers do not. Decades have passed since Captain Heinz Schumann and his crew were last heard from, yet the mystery of the disappearance has not faded. If anything, time has sharpened it. Modern research has since confirmed the existence of rogue waves and extreme oceanic events once dismissed as myth. Satellites have captured walls of water rising without warning. Models have been rewritten, and still the sea holds more secrets than solutions. The Munchen was not an outlier. She may have been an early warning. When maritime experts quietly re-examine other disappearances, the echoes are unmistakable. Ships lost without debris. Calm, final transmissions. Lifeboats found where they should not be. The same questions repeat themselves, as if the ocean is telling the same story in different voices. A story of limits, not of technology, but of understanding. What remains most unsettling is not the idea that the sea can destroy even the strongest vessels. It's the realization that these events may be more common than acknowledged, slipping through classification systems designed to preserve confidence rather than confront uncertainty. If that's true, then the Munchen was not unlucky. She was exposed. Somewhere beneath the Atlantic, her steel rests in darkness, untouched, unexamined. No wreck has been found, no final confirmation delivered. The ship remains both present and absent, a ghost defined by coordinates that lead nowhere. And that is why this story still matters. Because every time a modern vessel sails into open water, it carries with it the same assumptions that guided the Munchen. Assumptions that the ocean will behave as predicted, that anomalies are rare, that progress equals safety. The mystery of the disappearance of the MV München challenges all of that. It asks a question no official report ever answered. Not what happened to the ship, but what the ocean revealed in taking it. And until that question is faced honestly, the silence that swallowed the Munchen has not ended. It has only been waiting. The ocean never explains itself. It takes what it wants and leaves us with fragments. If the mystery of the disappearance of the MV München unsettled you, if it made you question how many other stories were quietly buried beneath official conclusions, then support this channel by subscribing. Activate the notification bell so you don't miss the next case where silence speaks louder than facts. And now I want to hear from you. Do you believe the Munchen was destroyed by forces we still don't fully understand? Or do you think there's more the authorities never told us? Like this video if you believe these stories deserve to be remembered. Comment below with your theory, because every unsolved mystery survives only as long as someone is willing to keep it alive. The sea may stay silent, but we don't have to.